This is Tanya Pearson interviewing Ginger Coyote on February 6, 2018 in Los Angeles, California for the Women of Rock Oral History Project. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So nice to finally meet you.
Yeah.
It is.
Sure. I'm going to see Flo tomorrow, so Flo is my idol. You know, the progressive girl. She's down at Groundlings, and we're going to go see her in a show.
Yeah.
I'm a big Flo groupie.
So I'm excited to meet you, and you're excited to meet Flo.
Thank you.
So these interviews, we start right at the beginning and work up to present day. So where did you grow up?
In the Midwest.
Very conservative?
Very conservative, very straight, very narrow-minded, very Republican. Everybody knew your business. Kind of like, I don't know, if you're content with that kind of lifestyle, if you don't mind, if you don't have any ambition to get out of there and see the world, and like, that you might know that there's somebody else that's actually living and breathing in a, that's doing something creative and something like that. I can see where you might be able to stay there, but to me it was just suicidal because it was too dull, one-dimensional, very meat and potatoes kind of area. Real cold in the winter, 6 feet snow and ice storms and black ice on the road. And
sounds great.
Oh, yeah. And then the summer is hot and humid, so but sticky. But it was a good place. There was some plus things to it. I learned about animals, and I learned a lot about, putting your finger up to the air and you can tell which way, the wind's blowing and stuff like that. And the sun, to east and west and everything. So that was good.
And can you talk a bit about your parents, or do you have any siblings? I think you have a brother.
My parents are not here, and I just recently lost a sister from a bad fall, and which was really coincidental because maybe about 2 months ago, I was in the bathtub cleaning the bathtub out, and I slipped and fell, and I went up feet first, because I had been sudsing it out with Clorox. And I guess it was slippery and wet. I was barefoot, and I fell, and I hit myself on there's a door that's this closet where you can keep cosmetics and stuff in, but and I hit that with my head, and then I fell really hard in the ceramic tub, and I had all these bruises, and I crawled out, and I just laid there for like 30 minutes, didn't know up from down, but I did get up, took ibuprofen, and called the doctor, and the skateboard guys that I know told me to get a flashlight and go in and look at the pupils of your eyes to see if you get a concussion and all that stuff. So that was good, but it was tough. And then Ralph Carney, the sax player that played with the B-52s and he's played with Tom Waits and stuff. He was going into he had just written on my Facebook page, you have to be careful. He says, you get a certain age, you just, you can't, you're not as sure-footed as you used to be. Then, a week later, he ended up falling down the steps of his house up in Portland and hitting himself and dying instantly. My sister had been in had heart surgery, so her balance was off and everything, and she just fell and I guess cracked her skull. But nonetheless,
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, a lot of people are dying that way from falls.
What was your kind of relationship like with your parents and your siblings when you were younger growing up? Was it good?
Not close. I was me and my brother, I had a younger brother, and we were like the youngest. And then there was like a 10 age gap between the kids. So I didn't really grow up with the other ones. I didn't know them as well. And one of them died when I was real young. He was killed in a car accident. And then the other ones, I was friends with one of them who also moved away and went to the World's Fair in Paris and all that stuff, and traveled, and knew that he couldn't live in the town that I grew up in because it was just too small, too tiny, too much of a Peyton place, Harper Valley PTA, and everybody knows your business.
Yeah. And what kind of kid were you? Were you a creative kid? Were you shy? Performer? I liked, since I remember, I was like music, like Bob Dylan and Yes and Moody Blues and the New York Dolls and bands like that. David Bowie. I wasn't like into like top 40 radio that was playing around where I grew up. There was a radio station called KIOA, and that was a real top 40 radio station. I was more into getting into underground, and there was a magazine store that I used to get, Rolling Stone and I magazine and Teen or Rock Scene magazine and all that stuff, and I'd see all these pictures of Jane County and Donna Destry and Serinda Fox and all those people, and Vera Ramone and the Ramones and all those people, and I think, oh God, I want to meet those people. Those are the people I like. What kind of student were you? How did you like school?
Oh, not a good one. I mean, I couldn't stand school because I was definitely, just appeared there and was able to get a driver's license. And when I got my driver's license, I went to Minneapolis, and that's where I finished school at, but I did not stay there. So I kind of graduated from the college up there. I went to GED and then night school and stuff to school there, and that's how I got my education. It was not because they didn't teach stuff that they didn't know about Native Americans, Black history, stuff like that. It was just real white.
Yeah, so I had read that you ended up like kind of graduating early and did you move to San Francisco?
I had moved to Minnesota, and then from Minnesota I moved to San Francisco.
And at that point in time, did you intend to kind of like play music or find?
Well, I was always gravitated to music and kind of to writing, so I was gravitated towards music. So rock and roll and punk and everything were kind of like the more the scenes that I was into. And so I, heard about this place called the Mabuhay Gardens, and I was friends with some of the people in Dan Hicks and the Hot Licks. And so I went, and Leela and the Snakes and the Tubes and all those people. And so I went there to see their bands. And then that's where I met the Avengers, the Dead Kennedys, the Mutants, and all those bands. So then I became a fixture there and kind of was there all the time. And I adopted them more like of a family. Dirk, the guy who ran the place, was more like a dad. At first he was a jerk and I couldn't stand him. But then when I started the magazine, I decided there was a magazine called Search and Destroy that was up there, and it just didn't cater to a lot of the other bands. They had a certain very biased, like maybe 7 bands that they interviewed, they did features on, and people were complaining that they couldn't get in there and stuff. So I said, I saw a magazine called Sniffing Glue out of England, and I said, I could do this. And so basically what I did is like just reviewed shows, and I was also really into soap operas, so I'd always like have stuff about what was happening on All My Children and One Life to Live and General Hospital and stuff like that, and do interviews with local bands and try to help them out, get publicity. One of the bands that I did do a lot of stuff with was a band called Eye Protection. And the lead singer of Eye Protection was a guy named Andy Pryboy, who was in, who kind of broke out and then went on to Wall of Voodoo, and then he did this White Trash Wins Lotto about Axl Rose down at Largo, and they were going to make that an HBO series. So, and he did an interview. He wrote a song about me and about the Punk Globe, and he said that if it wasn't, he told this guy that had interviewed that if it hadn't have been for me, that he wouldn't have gotten where he was. So that was nice to do. I did the first interview with the Dead Kennedys that they ever did too. So.
Yeah. So I actually did want to know when you moved to San Francisco, did you have like a plan? Where were you living?
No, I mean we just moved to San Francisco. We checked into a weekly hotel, and just went out and we had a certain amount of money saved, so we went out looking for places, and we found a studio in San Francisco on Market Street that we moved into, and we couldn't afford a phone for like the first 2 months or so, and I remember, or maybe first month, or I can't remember how long it was, because I remember I was friends with the Jefferson Starship or the Jefferson Airplane people, and they were playing at the Fillmore, and they had to call and leave a message from my landlord telling me that they'd put my name on the guest list to go see him at the Fillmore, and so that was fun, and then we ended up moving to a place over in Twin Peaks, and then lived on Polk Street for a while, and then I lived on Bush Street for a long time.
And you said that you were like a fixture in the San Francisco punk scene. Were you a fixture before you started Punk Globe magazine? Like, did people already know who you were?
Oh yeah, just from being at the shows and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, if you could talk a little bit about, I mean, you started Punk Globe, which is a really...
In 78, yeah, 77.
How did you do that with no money, really?
I knew people that worked in print shops, so they would give me deals and let me Xerox things, more than I could go and say, oh, I had Xerox 10 copies and I made 50 or 60 of them, and they just let me slide on it and do it like that. And then I started selling ads in the magazine, and since it was like just Xeroxed, I couldn't charge very much, but it did help a bit. And then we would also do benefits, and all the bands would play for them, and that continued even when it went. Then it went into newsprint, and then it went into hard stock, like white paper and stuff. Then we went online.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah. Did you have to supplement your income? Like, did you work any other jobs?
Yeah, I worked at a punk place called Diamond Lils, and it was a store on Pine Street, and it was a vintage clothing store, and a lot of the punks would go in there and resell their stuff, and it was like she would do commission and stuff, and I worked there for a long time, for like 5 years on and off, so.
And about what time did you consider playing music or singing and performing?
Well, I had been doing the magazine for a long time, and I would do benefits and stuff. And sometimes the bands would come up and say, "Oh, come on stage with us to do this," and I'd come up and sing background and stuff, background with some of the bands that would play. And then Lou Rudolph put together Lou Rudolph, this guy that I knew that had a performance space, put on a thing where he was doing different versions, different stuff. It was with Olga from the Lude and different people like that, and he wanted me to do a song, and I had these guys playing backup. I think some of the Lude were playing backup with me, and then Olga was playing bass, and I did a punt version of a song, and I can't remember. I think it might have been Louie Louie or something, and so I just decided, just to, migrate into doing a band. I'd been doing the magazine for a long time. People said you should do the band, so we went ahead. I went together, got people together, and it was like a party band, and we did shows, and it was a lot of cover songs and stuff. And then we kind of like decided to start writing stuff, and then just developed from more of a party band with all different members. We had Lynn from Sister Double Happiness playing drums with us, and Billy Gold from Faith No More playing bass, and all that stuff. So, and then we went from that into doing like a band thing, and then like having more permanent members and stuff. We went through a lot of different people. Jerry Finelli that played with Red Cross used to play with us. Margaret Cho used to play with us. All different people.
And did you tour a lot?
Oh, in the 90s we toured, yeah. We toured, we did a lot of Pacific Northwest tours, West Coast. We toured the United States, Canada. We went to over into Toronto and all those places with the Day Globe Oceans and MDC, and we played the Music West thing in Vancouver, and right around the time that we'd played the Music West, there was in the news about Tanya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan, and people, I liked Tanya Harding. I thought she was fun. And I liked her because she drank beer and she had asthma, and she was an underdog. She was a scraper. She had to go and get beer cans and stuff to get her outfits. And she wasn't privileged like Nancy Kerrigan was, and I kind of felt a empathy for her. So I had written to her lawyer, this guy named Bob Raffleson or something out of Portland, and asked and suggested that maybe Tanya should join the White Trash Debutantes, because all she was getting is offers to like be a sumo wrestler. And I go, surely, being in our band would be a little step up from being a sumo wrestler. So we went up to Vancouver, and the woman that was working with the Vancouver Festival was also a publicist, and she'd worked with Kids in the Hall. So she got it on the wire services, and it was all over that Tanya Harding was going to join the band. We got on Conan O'Brien, Howard Stern, Mancow interviewed us. It was just phenomenal. We were getting calls from Africa, China, Japan, asking about how we met her and all that stuff. Where I said, we haven't really met her. Just wrote to her, and apparently I'd gotten a letter back from the lawyer saying that her contract with King World, which was, I think, not a current affair, but the thing that, what was the name? Inside Edition. They had a thing with her where she was doing interviews and talking about everything with the incident with Nancy Kerrigan. So it had come to an end. So she was looking at options and said that she was interested in playing in the band. So I just worked it, and it got all over, and we got interviewed. We got on Conan O'Brien. Roseanne talked about us on her show. All kinds of people. We were just like all over the news. And we also had a woman named Punk Rock Pat that was in the band. She was like 78, 80 years old. So my friend Jim was a big Michael Moore fan. And he'd seen Roger and Me? And so he wanted to do Tanya and Me. And so he flew into Portland to see us, and he went to the Plaid Pantry where she used to buy her beer, her Camel Street cigarettes, and then he went to the place that her mother sold roses at. And then he contacted Elaine Stamm, who was the president of the Tanya Harding fan club, and she accused us of using Tanya to get publicity. But in the same sense, she was selling these like hoodies and T-shirts and sweatshirts for like $50, $100, $200, and so she was out. They started a demonstration. She and some of these people from the Tanya Harding fan club went in front of the Satyricon when we played there, and was boycotting the show, calling us devil worshippers, and that we were using Tanya to get attention. So of course they interviewed me, and I said, "Who's using who?" I go, we're not selling $50 or $100, $200 T-shirts with Tanya's picture on it. She is, and I go, I doubt very much if Tanya's getting a dime of that. So I go, I think that she better look at herself long and hard in the mirror. And as far as like devil worshippers, because we had, because Pat sang Highway to Hell, and so she naturally connected that with devil worship and stuff. And so I was laughing about, I said, Highway to Hell and devil worship. I go, we worship Tanya, and if she's the devil, then fine. Because we did a song called "Don't Fuck with Tanya Harding," and so and we used to sing that at all of our shows, and it was fun. And she never came to our shows. But then we went to Seattle, and the same thing. There was like the King TV was down there, and they said we'd heard that you had a demonstration and that you're devil worshippers and all that stuff. And we had to go say the same thing. There was like a kind of like a whole crowd of people there trying to see her. So, and I go, well, I don't know. I wish we were getting, if we're using it for everything, we certainly aren't getting paid for it, because we're traveling around in a van, crunched together with, like 8 people in a van. But so then we went into Canada, and they asked why Punk Rock Pat was with us, and I go, well, because she's in the band. They were going, well, what does she do? And we go, she sings. And they were questioning her, and then they said, "Where's Tanya?" And I go, "Well, she's a convicted felon. Would you let her in?" "Oh yeah, we'd let her in a minute. We love her." And so that was the kind of the thing. And everybody came and they wanted to know where she was, and we said, "Oh, we don't know. She didn't show up to any of the shows." So then we went back down to Portland and we played Lewis and Clark College. And it was an outdoor festival, and it was a big thing. They had sumo wrestlers there, and carnival thing, and we played with the Cherry Poppin' Daddies, and I made some mention about, "Oh, Tanya's here," and I pointed over there at the sumo wrestlers, and I go, "She's wrestling right now." So then after the show, this guy comes up and said, "Did you see Tanya here?" And I go, "No, why?" And they go, "She wants to meet you." And then she really was there by that sumo wrestlers. And so that's when we met her.
But didn't she didn't join because she said the band was too crazy?
He said we were too wild and that she couldn't sing that kind of stuff. And then like a month or two later, she sang Amazing Grace at the Rose Parade, and she got booed and all that stuff. I go, "Please, Tanya, maybe you should have joined us." Yeah, because we were like the songs, and we'd like strip guys on stage and stuff like that, and she got freaked out by that. What's a little nudity?
Yeah.
I mean, my motto is that guys have exploited all these women with go-go dancers and all that stuff. So instead of showing tits, show some dick. And that's what we did.
Well, I want to ask you something. So I read somewhere that a woman approached you about helping her with publicity, and you seem to be this like, publicity comes up over and over again, but it doesn't sound like it's really on purpose. Like, this whole thing started because you wanted Tanya Harding to be in
no, we got on the Jerry Springer show with Punk Rock Pat, and Punk Rock Pat, they had a therapist come on, and she was telling Pat, "I want you to go back and remember your childhood." And I don't know, Pat had been up all night drinking scotch and had been taking Valium and was smoking weed all night. So she was like, and then she just broke out on this story about wearing brown shoes to catechism or something on the Jerry Springer show. And we were all laughing and everything but she was crying and stuff. And she goes, "Let it out, Pat, let it out." And then after we'd done this, and then she brought the daughter in, Carol, who they told us Carol had said that we had made Pat go bankrupt, that she was spending all this money on band's equipment. So we hated her because they kind of enticed a fight between us. And it was weird. It was like they were going back and forth. They made us fly in at 6:00 in the morning. And we had to transfer in Denver. And then from Denver, we went to Minneapolis and transferred on another airplane to get to Chicago. And then they had a limo and stuff, and they took us to the Medford Hotel or something. It was a really beautiful hotel, and they gave us like $75 or $100 a day for per diem that we could eat and drink and stuff. But they flew the daughter out straight on American Airlines during the afternoon. And I said, "Did you have to fly the flight that we flew?" "Oh, no, we went out." She goes, "Straight through. It took me an hour and a half 3 hours to get here." And I go, "Fuck, why did we have to get up at 6:00? And to go back, we had to get up at 6:00 in the morning." It was like they kind of pitch you against the thing. And the thing that I also noticed is that they have plants in the audience, the Jerry Springer show. And whenever there's people that get up and, saying things, "You people are disgusting, you should look at yourselves in the mirror," they're in every episode. They're just sitting there. They might be wearing a different outfit or something, but sometimes they wear glasses, sometimes they don't. But when we were there, they shot 3 different shows, and they kept those people in another part of the green room, and they would tell them, pick a fight with people, do this, do that, and that's what they did. You know, they weren't so mean to us. They were just saying that they thought that we looked stupid and that we were using this poor sweet old lady, and then she's up there talking about how she likes punk rock and all that stuff, and she was wearing an MDC t-shirt or weed t-shirt and stuff. It was pretty funny. I mean. And all these people that the hecklers they keep there, and they have them go in, and they let them have green rooms so they can change their outfits, and so they don't look the same. But they pick fights with people.
Did doing shows like that, like Jerry Springer, Howard Stern, did that help? Did that help get you more shows for the
it helped, it helped get us shows, and it also the exposure. I mean, people knew who we were.
Yeah.
They also knew, we were in the National Enquirer because we had had the old woman, the granny that was a punk rocker. So we got in the Globe and the National Enquirer for that. And then we got into Newsweek and Time Magazine and all that stuff with Tanya. So, I mean, we've done just as well as a lot of sign bands or bands that, like the B-52s or any of those people were doing. We did it in a different way, but we got the publicity.
Yeah. During all this, how were you able to manage Punk Globe? Because you kept going with it, right? Was there ever?
Well, I did it not monthly. I did it like every 3 times a year, so it was a little easier. But it was hard doing even 3 times a year or twice a year. Because we went to Japan a couple of times, and we were in Europe and toured, so that was fun and crazy.
Europe?
Yeah.
Yeah. How was White Trash Debutantes received in the U.S. compared to like when you went to Europe and did shows there?
Well, the United States. I mean, even in Canada. In Canada, when you play a lot of the clubs, the promoters provide places for you to stay. They also feed you. They do this, they do that, and they give you drink tickets and they pay. And United States, some of the places pulling teeth to get a drink ticket from their places. I mean, United States just did not support the arts. And it was also during the time period that we were touring. It was like a lot of bands now, like the Dickies and bands like that, have got like buses that they rent out to bands. There was nothing like that would do that. You had to go through dollar budget and all that stuff and take the seats out, and there was no where they could track you down where you were going. So if you went into Canada or Mexico, they wouldn't have an alert making it say you were stealing it, because that's what they do now, have that where you can't go into Canada. And so that was the upside, but it's still, if we were getting good guarantees, we would get the 12-seater or the 8-seater vans, the long ones, the econo vans, and that we'd rent that and use that. We never traveled in a bus. It was budget.
And did you manage everything yourselves, kind of like finances and planning the tour? Did you ever have a booker or?
Oh, we had a booker. We had Monterey Peninsula booking that booked Dave Matthews and Chris Isaac and stuff. They were working with us. We worked with a guy named Todd Kent. he was a San Jose booker, and then we went with this woman named Tammy Taylor that was out of New York City, and she was booking bands like I think she did Butt Trumpet, and she also did the McCrackens and bands like that. So we did that's who booked a cross country tour. The bookings that she got for us, some were good, some were bad. We stayed we played the Emerson Theater in Indianapolis, and that was really fun. And Toxic Reasons, who are an old friend of ours from San Francisco, that was such a nice place to play because they gave us like water beds to sleep on and air conditioning and saunas, and then they made us breakfast in the morning, and they took us out, and they wouldn't let us buy anything at night, and it was really nice of them. And New York was fun. We had a good time in New York. A lot of actors and stuff came to see us at CBGB's. Amy Carlson, that was on Third Watch, and then she was on what's the TV show with Tom Selleck?
In the 80s.
The one that's on now. She played Danny. She played Danny Wahlberg's wife. She just recently left the show. Third Watch. No, she was on Third Watch about the fire people with Eddie Ciberon, the one that's married to the country western singer, the blonde-haired girl. I can't remember what you're talking about.
I know what you're talking
yeah,
about.
Yeah, Tom. It's Tom Selleck's the series that's on now. John Grise used to come and sing with us from Napoleon Dynamite. He played harmonica, and he used to take pictures. Dorothy Lyman used to come see us all the time from All My Children, and Rudolph Martin, who also was on All My Children. I wrote a song called My Guy's Name is Rudolph. That was about him. And who else? Talia Balsam used to come see us a lot. And George Clooney came to see us a few times.
George Clooney?
Yeah.
I always knew he was cool.
And Leonardo DiCaprio and Peggy and George used to come see us. Leonardo, when he was like 12 years old, got up with us and did the time warp.
How did you, or this might be way earlier, but how did you meet Jane County?
How did
you meet Jane County and you ended up playing together, recorded?
I knew Jane from New York. I knew people that knew her, and then when we met, she came and played in San Francisco at the Berkeley Square and at the MAB and the Tool and Die. And so then we hung out, and I was friends with B.B. Buell and all those people, and she was friends with them. And so, yeah, we did. And then we've been friends since. And then Jane came out, and Cherry Bonella and I and her and Holly Woodlawn we did a song called Boys together, that Beatles song, or Talk About Boys. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We did that song, and then we did 2 other songs. And we did the song called Rock and Roll Republican, where we call out Gene Simmons and Johnny Ramone and Ted Nugent and, who's the other one? Gene Simmons, Johnny Ramone, Ted Nugent, and I know that Alice Cooper, Mr. Nice Guy or Not, because they're all Republicans. So
I didn't know Alice Cooper was a Republican.
Yeah.
That's depressing.
Oh, yeah, really. There's a lot of them. I mean, Billy Zoom from X is a Republican.
Knew that one, yeah.
Why? I mean...
did you, so, I don't know how to, how to phrase this. So it seems like White Trash Debutantes were either, like, you were ahead of your time. Like, how did you fit into the scene and the shows that you were playing in at the time? Because it seems like if you existed, like, in New York in the 70s or something, maybe you would have been huge. But it's like a timing thing.
Well, every band has that problem. The Ramones, I mean, they didn't get the recognition that Green Day got. A lot of bands we were kind of like we started in a time period where there was no internet. Basically, it was just shows, live stuff, and fanzines, and people word of mouth. You didn't have the internet. There was no YouTube. There was nothing. Jerry Springer, getting on with Tanya Harding was the only exposure that you could really get. And so we were on CNN. Kurt Loder, I know, I was at the Gathering of the Tribes show once with the Cramps and Ice-T and all those people, and the Ian Asbury and all those guys, and they and Kurt Loder was there, and this girl comes up and says, Kurt would like to interview, and I go, interview me? I mean, why? And then he was really nice, and he said, oh, I love your band, and he knew exactly who we were, and I said, you do? And he goes, you guys are like the B-52s on acid. And I go, really? And he goes, yeah. He said, you guys are a prom night gone bad. And so, and he interviewed me, and he used a lot of the clip. It was from that show in San Francisco at the big amphitheater there that they did that show at, and about what kind of shoes do you like to wear and all that stuff, and things about who your rock idol is and stuff. And of course, I said Debbie Harry when she was doing Rapture and all, doing Ripper to Shreds and all that kind of stuff. That she was like when she was punk, that's what I liked. And it was like they asked quite a lot of questions, and I'd pop up there on a lot of stuff. And then when the Tanya Harding thing came out, he did stuff on us for that in the weekend news update. He was always really nice. Kurt Loder was a nice guy.
That's good to know, because I always thought that he seemed nice.
Pardon?
I always thought that he seemed nice and like a true.
Yeah, and down to earth and very he. I would call him every once in a while, and he'd get on the phone, and we talked for a long time and stuff. Oedipus from WBCN in Boston is a really nice guy too. Really, he sends me Christmas cards every year. Joey Ramone was really supportive. It was like. Yeah. They took us on tour with them, and we opened up for them in San Francisco, and we did a big show called The Circus of the Perverse in New York City. And we were in this rehearsal studio called Montana Rehearsal, and it was like Daniel Ray, Lemmy, Stib Bader, Sheeta Chrome, I think the Marky Ramone was in there, Daniel Ray, who else was in there? Ronnie Spector was there, and Lemmy, and I think Wendy O. Williams was in there, and they were like, Richie Stotts was in there, and they were interviewing Lemmy, and they were saying, are you still doing speed? And he goes, never touch this stuff. And then afterwards he was in there doing rails of speed. So that was fun. I mean, we were in awe. We like, what are we doing here? But we had this keyboard player, Jerry, and she just like, as soon as they needed a fill-in for Susie Davis, she was right there. She got up there and she got on stage, and she was an aggressor. She was part of the band.
Did White Trash Debutantes officially break up, or did you just kind of like disband or stop playing for a long time?
Didn't break up, and we'd play periodic shows, and that's what we still do. It's the return, but that's, it's like we just haven't played for a few years. I mean, I did like 15, 20 years of like touring and playing all the time and playing shows like, 100 shows, 200 shows a year. After a while, it gets old and it gets tiring. And I mean, going on tour, it's like you got to get up at 6 a.m. You have to account for dummy time, road closures, car trouble, flat tires, getting picked up for speeding, all kinds of stuff like that. Stopping at some like truck stop and having the truck stop, getting into an argument or a fight with somebody there because they don't like the way you look. I mean, we were down south during the hurricane, and you could smell the hurricane in the air, and then greasy chicken, fried chicken. And every time you go into a restaurant, it was like, you're a redneck when. And then there's like these old like cowboys that were going. I remember being in Alabama and asking directions. They were going, well, you go down the road and you'll see some railroad tracks. Now you go down and you pass those railroad tracks. And then you look down later and you'll see a stop sign. Well, then you take a right. And I go, well, then what? And then I said, because there was no MapQuest or anything. So it was like you were depending on that for directions on how to get to a club. I mean, we could have been there set up by the time the guy gave us the directions how to find the place. It was like, wait. And the kids in the South, I was like shocked the way they treated the black kids that would come to the shows. They didn't treat them like nice. They were like they would couldn't like just saying, well, what are you doing here? You're colored, you shouldn't be at these kind of shows. And I took them in and I asked them, don't tell them I said, don't tell them what you can and you can't do. I said, and buck against what you're supposed to do, because don't be normal. You don't have to go see rave music. You don't have to go see Diana Ross and the Supremes. Come out and support the punks, and who cares if they say it's white music and all that stuff. Tell them that you like it and to fuck off. And hopefully some of those kids do that. Because I'd stand up for a minute. I'd tell them to leave them alone. We played in a club in North Greensboro, North Carolina, and the band brought in two black girls, and they got up on stage with us to do the time warp, and the owner of the club turned off the lights, turned off the power, told them to get up out of the club. They didn't want them in there. There was a riot. Guns were pulled. It was like, Jesus.
When was this?
In the 90s in Greensboro, North Carolina, because we brought two black girls into the club.
And that was like a regular occurrence in the 90s in the South.
Yeah, it was a place called Burley's. And he like shut the electricity off and got him, and his girlfriend was just, get them out of here. They can't be on this stage. Why? They just really, it was horrible.
Well, let me think. What next? I do want to talk a little bit about, so you stopped extensively touring with White Trash Debutantes. You kept Punk Globe magazine going, but you went digital.
Yeah.
How did you decide to do that?
Well, because it was cheap. It was cheaper. I mean, when you do magazines, you also have to do, you do the layout and all that stuff. And then you have to, with photographs, you have to get them screened. And during the time when I was doing screening, some of these pictures that were like a half-page photograph, I was getting charged $45, $50 for one screening. So it was very, very expensive to screen photographs so you could reprint them in newsprint, and so it just was way too expensive, and so a girl that I knew that lived in Missouri said, "Have you ever thought about doing it online?" And that's when we went online, and it was so much easier. And it's easy. It's a lot easier. You're saving trees, first of all, and you're not dealing with distribution. Distributors who take your magazine and they send it off. We had Tower that was doing it, and we had Newbury Comics up in the north, I think Boston, and all that stuff. They were like that I was sending stuff to, and sometimes they'd say they didn't get it, and other times they would, and it was just mailing and all that stuff was so expensive, and not getting payment back so you could do the next magazine. It was tough. And getting burned by distributors. I'm sure that, bands have the same problem with, when you were sending out records and stuff, promo kits and stuff. It's really hard. It was so expensive. I mean, people want you to send out like CD. They want, bio. They want this. They want that. They want press clippings. They want to see where you played, write-ups and all that stuff. And you're sending these places overseas and stuff, Italy and stuff, even for like DAT tapes and stuff, during that time period, sometimes for $15, $20 to send packages to England and stuff. It was so expensive, so hard. Now it's cheap, and you don't have to worry about getting distribution fees, and you reach a lot of people. I mean, we have people from like the Muslim countries like Jakarta, and I just been in contact with somebody that's part of the Russian, there's in Russia, the Serbs and all that stuff that are into punk rock, and they've contacted me. Czechoslovakian people, English people all over, Japanese, China, all different people have contacted. We have I use HostGator, and they have a indicator of all the countries that have checked out the magazine.
Yeah. Was it important for you to keep it going? Was there ever a point where you thought, "Oh, I'm just not gonna do the magazine anymore"?
There was a time, I mean, when I first started doing the magazine, I got tired of it because it was a hassle, and it was expensive, and it was hard. And Dirk, the guy that ran the MAB, told me, he urged me, he said, "Whatever you do not stop doing the magazine." And I go, "Really? Why?" And he said, "Because this is going to be," oh, you read my mind, "this is going to be your legacy." Yeah. And he goes, "You may not realize it now, but this is what people are going to remember you for." And of course, like, "Oh, that magazine, it's they don't do good enough interviews. You can't read it. Some of the things, why do they have soap operas in it and all that stuff?" There was a lot of things like that. People were critical, and there were people that saw the thing and saw that it was done with a sense of humor, but there was political overtones.
we've never been pro Republican. We've always stood out and have been very anti Reagan, anti Bush, all that stuff. It's never been anything that's been that we've ever been supportive of, that's ever been right wing. So and also I don't think we would do interviews with conservative people. Jane County did a thing about the Republicans too, the Republicans and rock and roll, and wrote an article about it.
You mentioned like people who were critical of some aspects of Punk Globe or would complain about things, and people who would criticize White Trash Debutantes or your band members or how you dressed or your live shows or whatever. How have you dealt with criticism?
Fuck them. Who gives a shit? They ain't paying my rent. I could give a fuck. I mean, who cares? I mean, I don't do it. With the magazine, I like to support people. I like to be there, and I like to throw support. Even with the band, it's not all about me. I invite people to come up, and I have them come up and sing with us, and I have them, get involved with the show and stuff. And I rave about them being on stage because I'm proud that they're there. So I'm very supportive of others, and if it's a way, I mean, the other night, they were going, oh yeah, you're just getting Sharon and, you're getting Sharon from Betty Blowtorch because you want, people to come. And I go, well, she doesn't want to do it. That's fine. But I mean, I think she's going to have fun. And then they were up there and they were just hooting and hollering and, and they were writing on Facebook and saying this is the best show that we've ever played at. It was fun playing with really good musicians because we included them. We were right there. We were all on stage together and just having a great time. And I mean, I think in this day and age, there's enough sadness already. I mean, watch the news. We gotta build the wall. We gotta build this wall. I mean, fuck the wall. Let's have some fun and forget about that for a few minutes, and, just live in it and not have to worry about a Holocaust, about a nuclear bomb, who's getting into a fight with who, which world leader has been insulted by this baboon, Again, it's just like, I watch the news and that's all it is. But I do watch it because I want to find out what's going on. With the leaders and the way that he treats people, you never know who's going to go turn against us at any given time. And so, especially with North Korea, I mean, I feel just like scary times. So, and I feel sorry for kids that are growing up now. I mean, I think that, young kids that like are 16, 17-year-old, 15-year-old, we didn't have that back in the 70s and the 80s and stuff, where we had a president that was picking fights with everybody and calling out everybody and calling them names and, even people in his own party, just horrible. I mean, John McCain isn't exactly, isn't exactly as Elizabeth Warren, but I mean, I respect him. He's an old guy that was was a prisoner of war. He's got his right, and he seems to be somewhat of a moderate Republican, sort of. I like what's her face, the one up in Massachusetts, Maine, where Susan Collins. I think she's good, sort of. She voted for that tax bill, though. But Susan Collins seems to be all right. There aren't too many of them that I like, but
I I keep seeing on Facebook, like, people are now looking back fondly on George W.
Oh, yeah.
It was just kind of funny and stupid.
I mean, people were going to move. I remember the people were going to move out of the country because he was president. I mean,
now, not so bad.
Yeah, really. Bill Maher did the best. Had a picture of him like, do you miss me now? And he goes, now I do. Yeah. I mean, I thank God for Bill Maher, and he makes me laugh so much. And thank God for Rachel Maddow. She is such genius. I mean, I'm a big, her and Flo, I'm a big fan of.
Yeah.
Roddy from Faith No More, or Imperial Teen, or I guess he's doing music for TV shows now, lives in the same condo complex as Rachel Maddow, and he says she's really cool. And
is that in
New York City, yeah. I'm a big fan of hers. I ever since she was on The View, and they asked her if somebody was going to play her in a movie, who would it be? And she goes, Kirk Cameron from when we was on Growing Pains. That's a pretty good comeback. She does kind of look like him. He's a Republican too.
Yep. I think he would have a problem playing Rachel Maddow.
Oh, I don't think he could.
So you live in Los Angeles now. We talked a little bit about San Francisco and how it's not the same. How long have you lived here?
18 years. I moved down here during the dot-com crunch in San Francisco. My place had gotten bought, and we fought like cats and dogs to keep it, but they wanted to move into the building, and they wanted us out. And then when we were just kind of like in the between of leaving, and they were trying to service like papers to get us out, they started the building on fire. They were real cheap, and they played loud music and stuff. And Danielle Steele gave me money to get a lawyer, and so we hired an attorney, and the attorney had to contact their attorney and tell them that we were going to go after them for harassment if they continued to play loud music. Because loud music, we were on a dead end alley, and everybody could hear it all over the neighborhood, and it was just like this rave kind of music, the DJ crap. And it did drive us crazy.
Yeah, you ended up leaving.
Yeah, they wanted us out. Kind of the way Fiona did on Shameless when she, at the end there when she had that family, that guy that fell off the roof staying in her apartment, and they were squatting there, and they were going to sue her for $8 million or something, and she started firebombed him and then played loud music and then welded him in so they couldn't get out. It was pretty fun. I mean, it was pretty cutthroat, but we'd gone through that too, except it wasn't Fiona that did it.
And how was the transition to LA?
Well, at first I missed San Francisco, but now I don't miss it at all. I go back up there on occasion to play, and when I've gone back, it's cold. It's none of the same people. I mean, it's very CEO. I mean, it's like, I don't think, there are only a few people that I know that still live in the city. Most everybody have been driven out and have had to move to other places. So it's not a familiar city. It's not with people. I mean, during the 80s in San Francisco, it was like Cheers, where everybody knows your name, and I don't know if they're awfully glad that you came, but it was like everybody knew everybody, and now you walk, it's just like robots. I mean, nobody knows anybody there because they've all moved. A lot of businesses, the rock and roll clubs. I mean, the rock and roll clubs, even when I moved down here, there were more places to play on Sunset Strip than there were in the entire Bay Area. It was that bad.
Yeah.
because the .com people were buying it and getting rid of them.
How do you feel about White Trash Debutantes, like, kind of musical legacy, I guess?
Well, I think that we've got our place. I mean, I think that there's politics, that there's, in our own way, we're not MDC or dead Kennedys, but there is politics, and we rant when our music and stuff deals in our talk and stuff, and our what we are behind, with things that we support. We've done a lot of stuff for rent control, for homeless people, Food Not Bombs. We supported we did a Bernie Sanders benefit, and I think we've done a Hillary Clinton thing and stuff like that. I mean, we're our politics. I mean, we add humor into it, but I mean, even the humor's got its own fuck you thing. And I mean, I don't care. We don't care what you say. Fuck you. It kind of like it's like we've got our place, and I think that we are. I mean, young kids. I was walking. They put us in a dressing room at the Las Globas. It was down these 4 flights of like these steep stairs, and even the turbulent hearts. They're like 17, 20 years old, and they were like having a hard time getting up and down the stairs. And so I was going up the stairs, and this group of kids come up, and they're going, "Can we take a picture with you?" And I was going, "Well, yeah, I guess, but can I get out of this way?" Because there are people going up and down. I go, "I don't think this is a real opportune place to take a picture." And so they were fine, but it was all young kids and stuff. And they were going, "Oh, we heard that you know Joey Ramone, that you toured with. What were the Ramones like? We toured with the Lunatics too, and a lot of people like them, and L7 and all those bands. So we played with them a lot, and bands talk about the bands that you played with, and they want to know this, they want to know that, and of course they ask you. We also played with Gigi Allen, so a lot of people want to know about him. I mean, Gigi Allen was a character on stage, but off stage, he was so shy. The only thing, Biafra was at her show, and we went backstage, and he was kind of quiet and shy and everything. And then they said, "Can you take pictures with us?" And they were filming it. And so he puts his arms around us and everything, and I kept smelling this stuff, and I was going, "God, what's that smell?" And then I looked at his arms, and it was all shit from eating beans. He'd like shitted on stage and threw it out at the crowd. Everything's layered with shit. It was horrible. I had to wash a lot that night. But he was sweet. He was really nice. But you gotta watch out. You gotta make sure what he was doing on stage. I'd forgotten about him doing that because I was in the other. Because I didn't want to get thrown at it. I didn't want that stuff thrown at me.
Very sweet and covered in shit.
There was this girl that I know that was trying to sue the Covered Wagon because her glasses got broken by Gigi Allen, and she was saying, she brought a tape and brought it to court, and they were going, "Now this is you. And you're trying to sue the club for Gigi Allen to breaking sugar, and they kept like playing the video over and over for people in court to see of her getting up there
flipping off Gigi Allen right in his face, calling him a piece of shit, a motherfucker, and he just took the glasses off and broke them. And she was like, continued to do it. And she goes, "You're trying to sue them for?" They go, we think we should put you in a mental hospital just for what you did." That was funny. But yeah, it was like we've had played some funny shows, wild shows. We played this one place up in Washington, and it was like in Kent, Washington. It was at that all age club, and there were all these young kids that were there, and this one boy came and sat with these young kids with mohawks, came and sat with us, and they were going, "Oh God, do you guys dress up wild and everything?" And we were going, "Yeah, that's just part of what we do." And then they were going, "Well, do you get paid a lot?" And I go, "Well," I said, "Sometimes we make, sometimes we get $20 or show. Sometimes we get $20. Sometimes we get $100. Sometimes $200, $500. It depends on where you're playing." And they're going, "Well, we've got $40. What can we get from that?" And they thought we were hookers. Part-time hooker.
I don't know how to transition into this.
At least we have fun.
Yeah.
From having Tanya's fan club manager chase after us, calling us devil worshippers, to having the boys asking us how much what they can get for $40.
Yeah, it's like the full spectrum.
Oh, we've had it all. I mean, some of the shows that we played and some of the wild things that happened. I mean, God, one show that we played at, some couple were having sex on stage. Sex right on stage. I was like, oh God.
So were you approached about the documentary because the documentary about you?
Yeah, Mark and Lagaya. Mark does the covers for Punk Globe, and they were doing a movie they were going to do on this other girl up in Vancouver, and she was just flaky and couldn't get there and couldn't make times, and we had to leave them waiting, and they'd rent places, and they'd have all this gear and stuff, and never show up. So they were thinking about that they wanted to do something, and then they asked me, they go, "How about you? Do you want to do it?" And I go, "Well, I guess." And so we've gotten, we started doing it, and we did interviews with like a lot of people that I knew just in general, and then we kind of went out a little more, and I got Ed Asner to be in it, and we've got John Grise in it, and Pepe Serna, who was in Scarface, he gets his arm cut off. He's in it, and we've got Pleasant Guillaume, who else? Alice Baggs in it. Brandon Cruz, Dave Klein from Agent Orange. Who else do we have? Matthew Asner, Ed Asner's son. Jane County, Vanessa from Pylon. We've been trying to get Cindy in it, but they were going to do it in Vancouver, but the fog was so bad, and they'd driven, and they were just didn't even have time to eat before they had to do the show, so they couldn't do it. But we were where was who else do we have? Luis Perez, who used to be in this band called Lost Villains, and he's works at Shamrock Tattoo that does all that, like, I think he did Ariana Grande's two tats and all that stuff.
Polly Perrette from NCIS is in it. There's a lot of people that are in it, and it's a real good documentary. Talking. People just talking about how I've helped them, inspired them, and the stuff that we've done together and stuff that is it's good. I mean, I think it's gonna. I don't know. Even if people have never heard of me, they're gonna hear of most of the people that are in the cast. I'm sure that it's gonna draw some sort of attention. It might be. They might say that we're just using getting a lot of these people to get attention to the thing, but these are people that are my friends. So, I've known Ed Asner since 1980. So. We're friends. I mean, he told in the interview, he goes in the interview that he did with us, he talks about being popular, about cheating on his wife, not being there for his son, and about it was people like me that kind of took his son and watched him while he was out cavorting around and stuff. So there's some sadness in there too that come out, and I don't, a lot of stories. Pleasant talked about the first time we met, and I guess it was at the MAB, and that she was wearing a nurse's uniform. So I said she looked like Kate Jackson, and I told her that I was Cheryl Ladd and all that stuff, and we were all the angels, and I guess Iggy Pop was there and all that stuff. I go, oh my God. It was pretty funny. It's some of the stories, just finding out the people that were also there, like Iggy Pop and all that stuff. I mean, I knew that Iggy. I knew that he knew that we knew each other. I met him before, under other circumstances, and seen him at the ERG thing that Cramps played with him, and then I saw. I know his son Eric, so, but. Yeah, that was a fun thing, to find out. And we've got some fun people that, people up in Billy Bonita or Billy Black Halos, there, he's in it. A lot of people that I haven't seen. Dave from MDC, he's really funny. I love him. He's great. So it's a fun thing.
Yeah. Do you also feel? Are you glad that someone's kind of like documenting?
Well, yeah. I mean, I kind of like this because I have somewhat of a control, and it's good that there's going to be something out there. A legacy thing that I have been offered to do books and stuff, and to talk about my different friendships with people and what has actually happened and all that stuff. I haven't ever really, because at first, like, I did the best of Punk Globe, but the editor, the publisher that wanted me to do, about the Clash and all those people and the people that I'd known and hung out with and all that stuff, and I didn't feel good about that.
How do you feel about your role in or contribution to rock history as a whole or punk history?
Well, I think that I have provided an outlet for a lot of new people, a lot of new bands, and even established bands or people that have been big and are on their way down. It's like my motto is you better be nice to everyone you know on your way up, because you never know whose ass you're going to be kissing on your way down. So that's kind of a motto that I keep in mind with people, and I would expect that. I'm trying to be nice and polite, but I will call people out on being jerks and stuff if they are one. But but if the people treat me right, I treat them right, and that's what I would like to think. That I've also got a funny sense of humor. and I've done stuff. I can laugh at myself as long as it's not hurtful and mean and stuff, but I can laugh and I can do this, like the talk about the stories about the kids thinking the hookers and all that stuff. That to me is funny, and even growing up about living in a area that's like nowheresville, so I just had to get out of there. I mean, yeah, it's not the funnest place to grow up in, and it is kind of like maybe some of those things, those memories are not real good ones, but you can't harbor on everything bad. You just gotta play with it and move on, and that's what I've tried to do. I like the attention sometimes of the young ones. I was over at the. I was at the over by Rock and Roll High, and I was walking, and this kid came up. He was a skateboard, and he said, "Do you want to go over here?" And I go, "For what?" And he goes, "Well," I can we can have sex over there." And I was going, is this 21 Jump Street? I said, no. I said, I'm not going to go have sex in an alcove of a building. I go, this is a school.
Was this
I mean,
recently?
what?
Oh, no, this was a long time ago.
No, this is like 2 years ago. He said to me that. Then I had this other guy that was hanging out with me. He's in one of the he's in one of the clips from that Mark and the guy have got up for One Finger Films about the documentary, and he thought that I had put out 38 issues of Punk Globe, and he said he was going, wow, 38 issues. Most people couldn't even do 2 or 3. And I'm like, the guy was going to say 38 issues. It's 38 years. I kicked her in the leg and I said, let him think what he wants.
Well, I just have a few. I asked everyone the same few questions at the very end. But what are your thoughts on the visibility of women in rock history or in the history of punk in general? Like, are they given enough kind of space? Is there sort of like a gender discrepancy, or is there gender bias, do you think?
Well, I think that with punk alternative music has always been a lot more open for women. Metal music, it's definitely not open for women. There are certain women that have broken the barriers, like Lita Ford and the Girls' School, Joan Jett, I guess, to a point, but she's in a lot of the punk side. That have kind of broken into that. A lot of the L7 and Betty Blowtorch and Breeders and Babes in Toyland, Tri-Bait, and all those bands, they've kind of come out of it, the Riot Girls and all that stuff strong. I think that with the punk scene, there has been that there is going to be a legacy kind of left of girl bands, and the thing of it is that it's sad that it isn't women bands, or it's sad that, hey, these people did it and and nobody really cared whether they're a man or a woman. They just kicked ass. But there's always that stereotype, is that the girl thing, or the chick thing, and that kind of dismaying. I don't like that. That's like, we're all people and we're all this, and if we kick ass and we take no prisoners, who gives a fuck what we are? And that's kind of like where I'm at with that. I definitely I admire like a lot of the women that are coming out and that have the pioneers. The older bands, the ones that have been around since the 70s and 80s, we've got the arrows in our backs. So these little kids can go down to
Hot Topics and wear their crazy color hair and their Gigi Allen Germs t-shirts and not get stopped by the cops and not, get jacked up for IDs and stuff and saying all this stuff and get picked up for vagrancy or get picked up for loitering and all that stuff, because that happened in the late 70s and 80s. It was tough. Cops did not like punks, and they did like the crazy color hair and all that stuff. And when I was doing the magazine, I got stopped by the police, and they looked at me, or it was an undercover cop named Vince that I knew, and he asked to look in my bag. He pulled out, I had a pair of like small scissors that were this big, and rubber cement and the layout for the Punk Globe, and he arrested me for carrying a concealed weapon. Luckily, someone saw this happen and called the MAB and told them when they were down there, and they had money to bail me out. So I got processed, and Herb Cain, who was the journalist for the SF Week or for the San Francisco Chronicle, called me up and asked me what had happened, and I said, I don't know. I was walking, and this cop stopped, and this undercover cop stopped me and said, "Can I see what's in your bag?" And the next thing I know, I was being arrested for carrying a concealed weapon. So he wrote in the thing that I was on my way to a sewing bee and that I had a pair of scissors on it. And I went into court that day, and it was like on a Tuesday morning, and he wrote about it on Tuesday morning. And so I went into court at the courthouse in San Francisco, and I thought, oh God, there was like the $10,000 bail on me, or they had to put up 10% because they had put up the Mabui as collateral, and I thought, oh God, I'm gonna be in jail for this, and so then. I go in there, and they're going. I go, my name isn't up, and they're going, you're the one that's in the paper, and I go, what? And then this woman comes out, and she goes, you're the lead story in Herb Cain, and I read that, and I go, oh, thank you, Herb, you saved me. And it was because of that thing they decided not to press charges. But when I first went into Canada, they had that on the Canadian thing. They asked me, they go, were you ever detained for carrying a concealed weapon? And I go, a concealed weapon, 6-inch scissors for doing a punk magazine? And then they asked me that. But I went to Japan, they didn't ask me anything. And I went to Mexico. They were, welcome to Mexico. I was down in Mexico, and we were playing with this band called Tijuana No. And they were doing all this like show where it's like all these little Latin kids, these little Mexican kids and everything, and they're going, fuck the gringos. I'm the only white person in the club. And I go, thanks a lot, you guys. You're like putting a fucking nail on my head right away. I'm the only blonde in the club. So anyways, these kids were like coming up and going, yeah, fuck you, and all that stuff. So then I said, I'm Sally Struthers. I'm here to feed you. And they're going, Sally Struther. And I go, yeah. Oh, the way Glenn Miller played songs that made the hit parade. And they were going, Sally Struthers. And they were buying me tequila. They're going, where's the food, Sally? Where's the food? And I go, oh, it's out in the truck. And then we were doing like another funny thing that also happened is that we did a cover of Living La Vida Loca. And I told people that Ricky was going to join our band, and that me and him were going to get married. And I had this diamond ring, and everybody was like going, where's Ricky Martin? And I go, he's passed out in the band. He'd been drinking, he drank a case of PBR, and now he can't even stand up. And it was pretty funny because people actually, because they were printing about Ricky Martin might show up at our show. So, I mean, we'd have little fun things like that. And And then when I did meet Ricky Martin, he was laughing about it. He thought it was funny.
Oh, good. I was thinking then you meet Ricky Martin.
Yeah, he was really cute. That was before he got all beefed out and he turned himself out. But I mean, that was when he was like trying to pretend he was straight and all that stuff. But he was still cute, not all muscle bound and everything. And he was real sweet. I liked him. I could see where anybody would fall for him because he's very nice. He told me he was a Buddhist and all that stuff. He was cute, very nice.
Ricky Martin.
And he was living La Vida Loca. I mean, our cover was, he never drinks the water. He always, he never drinks the water. He always drinks PBR. And once you get a taste, it's like once you get a taste of him, it's like having a Quaalude in your brain, upside inside. What was it? It was what was it about? He makes you shoot up heroin, and then he makes you go out and buy some crack cocaine, upside inside out. He's living La Vida Loca. Woke up with Ricky Martin in a funky cheap hotel. He took my trick book. He took my money. He must have gave me a roofie or a Quaalude. He never drinks the water. Makes you order PBR, and once you get a taste of him, it's like having a lewd in your brain. It's upside inside out. He's living La Vida Loca. We changed the. We had fun like that. We did a cover of. We did Don't Fuck with Tanya Harding about her doing the triple axel, and about how she can, the only female skater that could do that and all that stuff. And talking about, and that was, we'd already written that for Susan Lucci not winning the Emmy Awards. We just changed it to Tanya Harding. Tanya, with Susan, she's been nominated for the Emmy Award nearly 20 times. Every time she loses, she holds back her tears while her fans write letters of boos and jeers. Don't fuck with Susan Lucci. Don't fuck with the Luch.
I don't want to end on that.
You know.
Or maybe we should. I don't know. The last question is really general. How do you feel about the category women of rock or women of punk? Do you think gendered categories are kind of useless or dumb, or do you think it's still necessary?
Well, I think that as long as it's addressed in a respectful way, to me, chick's a punk. If you want a chick, go to a brooder house. I mean, and I guess depending on your age, girls of rock can be complimentary. I mean, that doesn't bother me as much as the chicks or the broads or the I don't know what else they use. Women, as long as it's women, who cares? I mean, it shows that you're getting respect as an adult. You're getting respect as what you are, and it's not the chick thing. I don't like the chicks of. I mean, that's my big thing is that you want a chick, go to a brooder house, go to the poultry place. You can raise a few of them there, but I'm not chicks. That's your grading towards women. And I know a lot of beatniks and all that stuff, Cool Daddy-O and all that stuff, and calling guys cats and chicks and all that stuff. I guess that's an era, and maybe that's acceptable, but now I don't think chicks is that. It's not. We're living in the 50s. We're not watching Dobie Gillis or Donna Reed. Be like Peg Bundy. I like her. She's more of a role model. Oh, Al. Xena, the warrior princess. Be a victor, never a victim.
Lucy Lawless is so sweet. Met her, and we took pictures together, and I posted all these pictures about that I was Gabrielle, but she had her hair blonde. She looked like Jessica Simpson.
Like, we can't end on Lucy Lawless.
Not on Lucy Lawless?
No, that's funny. I mean, it's
Xena.
This will be the only interview that I've ever done that ends with Xena Warrior Princess.
Oh, well, good.
So that's cool.
Yeah, why not? Xena, she's a role model. I mean, tough. Doesn't, and one of my favorite lines is that one time there was this gang of guys, and they came up and they were going to attack her, and they're going, "How's it going, Xena?" And Xena looked at her and she goes, "Doesn't look so good for you guys." And she swung that thing and did the hoops and kicked him in the air and had him flying. It was great. I mean, I love watching her. I thought she was so great, so tough, and didn't let people take advantage of her. And that's what we need more of, and the strength. And she also was for the underdog. She liked Joxer, and she liked the one. Bruce Campbell played him. I can't remember what the character was, but Bruce Campbell, the one that.
I think it's Autolycus.
What?
Autolycus, I think. Was he Autolycus?
Favorite. Autolycus?
Autolycus. I think that was his name. No?
Is that the character he was on Xena?
Yeah, I think so.
He was the one that was always making the wise
He's kind of a thief. He was kind of like a thief guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and he made all those jokes. And one time, when Lucy Lawless was pregnant, they had Gabrielle doing the fighting, and also that blonde, the one that was her arch enemy, and she was kicking him around. And he goes, "But I paid for an hour," and that was so funny. I liked it when they did that. They had the rock festival. And Xena sang "People Gotta Be Free," and Joxer came dancing in the moonlight, him and his twin brother, and they had the guys in the gold lame G-strings. That was great. And we were dancing in the moonlight, and Gabrielle did a heavy metal song, and I can't remember the blonde's name, but she was really funny. She was the evil. She was
the one who plays Aphrodite.
Calypso. Callista, is that her name?
Blackheart?
No.
Calista, I think that was. Yeah, that she was the evil one that didn't like. She was really pretty, blonde, and she hated Xena. But they fought. But Callisto, when she was beating up Bruce Campbell, she was kicking him around, and she tossed him down and goes, "Hey, but I paid for an hour." Like she was doing an S&M thing. So, those are people I like. We had Xena T-shirts too with White Trash Debutantes on them.
I didn't know that.
Yes, I loved Xena. Xena can do no wrong.
Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to?
I think I've told every story there is, and then a few.